This is Isaac Ferrie with Crop Tech Consulting, bringing you this week's edition of Technology Tuesday. This week's session focuses on how to set the scale in your yield mapping software to aid in properly identifying management zones. You get a lot of questions this time of year about different yield maps and evaluating yield maps, and especially as we move into a more variable rate, definitely variable hybrid, guys are using their yield maps more and more to evaluate how they did in the previous season and make management decisions, refine management zones, identify management zones as they go into the next year. There's a couple things that need to be aware of as we start to make some of these decisions and evaluate some of these fields, and some common mistakes I think that guys make as they do that, and we'll go over a couple of these over the next few weeks. One of them is what we call an equal area versus equal interval legend. Now, guys are using yield maps. They're definitely using yield monitors before to make field by field decisions and definitely evaluate field by field. Well, now with yield maps and the accuracy of them increasing and guys producing better and better maps, we're now not making field by field decisions, but we're making zone by zone decisions within those fields themselves, which means we do have to accurately identify those zones. Part of it is a map like this. We can see it's a very good calibration. We're seeing that these zones show up. We can see these zones with the map. They're not random blips of colors. We can clearly identify some of these management zones. And we use a good map like this, especially if we had multiple years of maps like this, to create those management zones. And when we start thinking about the legend, it's something that not a lot of guys put a lot of thought into until the end of the season. But when we look at our legend over here, we look at these different spacings. We have this on what we would call an equal area legend. Every section in this legend contains the same amount of acres all the way through. And that's important because we're looking at the variability within the field, where it yields the best and where it yields the worst. I'm not as concerned at exactly what it yielded in the best part and exactly what it yielded in the worst part when I'm identifying my management zones, but I do want to know the variance. I want to know that here's a spot that yielded abnormally low. Now here's a spot that's yielding abnormally high. We can identify those management zones, we can map them, and then we start to figure out, why are they low? Why are they high? Is there something we can do to change that, to increase profitability or decrease inputs on some of these spots? But this is a great map. Awesome job doing the calibration process, and we're getting these zones out. It's phenomenal. All right? But that can easily change. If I go over here to our legend and I change from an equal points legend, which means we have an equal number of GPS points in each one of these ranges, to an equal spacing legend, which means now my spacing that each of these ranges covers is exactly the same. Here it's like 61 bushel or pretty close to that. And I can apply that, hit OK, and now I take that same map and 60, 70, 85 acres of this field ends up in these two colors. Alright, I can still see some zones for the most part, and if I do a great job calibrating, I can see some of these zones. But when you look at the detail we had in that previous map and how much is lost by some simple changes to our legend, and if we set this legend as our static legend across all of our fields for the whole year, we're going to get maps that look like this. When we use an equal area legend, this legend changes then for every single field that we print. And that's important because we're evaluating not just on a field by field basis, but a zone by zone basis within the field. So those legends are going to change every single field. But we do an awesome job calibrating. We get an awesome map, and then in the end we screw it up, and we make our life so much harder depicting management zones and evaluating these fields by doing a poor job of setting the legends. So that's something to think about. The other thing I want to mention is we do get a lot of questions when guys start focusing on this legend, is that it has nothing to do with how the legend is set up in the monitor. You set your legend up in the monitor however you want. Your field can be points of all one color in the monitor itself, and it's not going to change what we can do here because we're reading in the raw data points and then we're setting the legend independently of what you did in the monitor. So you don't have to worry about setting the legend in the monitor, what you do there. won't have an effect, but you do need to get a good calibrated yield map just like this. And then as we start to analyze it, it makes it so much easier when we start doing an equal area. So we got the same amount, so we know that if this legend, say here has, I think it has 7 entries, but we know that 1/7 of the field is in this top yielding bracket. And we know when we look at this red down here that this represents 1/7 of the field. So we can start to divide out where's our best parts of the field, where's our worst parts of the field, and make those evaluations. And then this is a great base as we move into a variable rate system, either variable population, variable nitrogen, that we start to define these management zones or identify the management zones and move forward. Thank you for watching this week's edition of Technology Tuesday. Please check our website for more information and other videos.